Happy Friday afternoon, everybody. Welcome back to another edition of Cafecito and Canes. Sir, welcome. Appreciate the support. Um, we had some news this week. Biggest thing that dropped, I would say, was the new schedule, which we will go into, um, and a couple other things, coaching change, Jacurri's podcast. We'll touch on all of that. I'm not going to be on too long, about 15 minutes maybe, but please come on in, get your questions in, get your comments in. I'll make sure and try and post them and try to answer as many as possible. So, first off, yes, our running backs coach, Coach Harris, has accepted the opportunity to go be the offensive coordinator at UCF. That's awesome for him. Big congrats to Coach Harris. I thought in the 1 year that he was here, he made quite an impact, not just on recruiting, not just on helping our running backs develop, but culture-wise as well. He checked all three boxes. So I think he did a great job when he was here, and hopefully in the near future, we'll see him again. But am I concerned? Am I worried? Not in the least, honestly, because if you thought the coaching staff was going to be intact from year to year, that wasn't going to happen. I don't care what team you are. For that to happen year to year, every single coach and analyst and everybody stays put, that's almost impossible in today's college football. So, just be glad it was an assistant coach and not a coordinator or something like that. So we lose our running back coach. Hopefully Mario doesn't take months to find our next running backs coach, because spring is right around the corner. I think someone posted that it's like 37 days away, which is insane to me. But hopefully we find a guy soon. Hopefully there's a short list that Coach Mario's already put together. And I'm not asking for too much here. Just bring in a guy who, again, solid recruiter, has ties to the area, vibes well with the players. That was a big issue with the coach previous to Coach Harris. So make sure it's somebody who vibes with the players. He meshes well with the culture that we're trying to build, and just kind of look. We have a talented running back group. Just kind of do what you need to do to develop them, but stay out of their way at the same time. You know what I'm saying? And also recruit well. But also, if we're winning, I'm not too concerned about how well our assistant coaches are recruiting, because you got Mario at the helm, you got JT, you got Coach Salavea, you got Coach Mirabal, you got some monsters in there recruiting. All right, I'm not too concerned about that. Kylo Ren says, whoever we hire needs to teach the running backs to bounce it to the outside after the gut is stuffed. I'm going to agree with you. I did notice that a few times, that a play that could have been bounced to the outside wasn't always bounced to the outside. Henry Parrish was good at that, but he's a veteran. I want to see the younger guys doing that more. So that's a fair point. There was that. Again, not too concerned. There was the podcast episode that Jacurri was on, if you haven't caught it already. If you're listening to the show, I'm sure you'd listen to it. But if you haven't, it's on the Momentum podcast. It dropped earlier this week. Not going to go too much into it because every show has gone into it already. I'm not going to beat a dead horse. I'll just reiterate the fact that I think we have, attitude-wise, we have a hell of a young man in that quarterback room. And I'm glad Jacurri's a Hurricane. But I don't know if you guys noticed this. It was funny how, depending on what fan base you are a part of, depending on who you support, there were, you basically heard two different interviews. It's really funny how that kind of played out on social media. The haters heard something completely different from what we heard. What I heard is a dude that's willing to wait his turn, that has a lot of self-awareness, that knows that I am, I have some flaws I need to work on. That's why I asked for redshirt. But at the same time, the way everybody's clipping the part about when he talked about Cam Ward. Never mind that he said later in the podcast that he and Cam Ward are good and he's good with everybody in the quarterback room. They left that part out conveniently. But they like to clip the part about when he found out Cam was coming to Miami and how he was feeling about it and all that stuff. This is how I took it. Jacurri is willing to bet on himself. And that's why he decided to come back. He could have very easily hit the portal after that happened. Could have very easily done that, but he didn't. Actions speak louder than words. Yes, exactly. They're trying to flip the narrative on JB. Look, us Hurricane fans, we heard one interview. We were very happy with all the stuff he said. The haters, the media, they heard something totally different. But of course, I'm sure none of them heard the entire interview. They just clipped out one part and ran with it. But let them do that. I'm really not concerned one bit. Because if Cam comes in and balls the F out and we go win 9, 10, 11 games, who cares? Who cares what he said in this podcast in January? Nobody. It's not going to matter. So glad we got JB. Yeah. I really liked how this quarterback room is stacked up because Cam comes in. Hopefully he balls out the year that he's here. We win a lot of games, goes off to the NFL. That has a ripple effect because it helps our quarterback recruiting moving forward. But besides that, let's say he comes in. We win a lot of games. Maybe win an ACC, maybe win a good bowl game, whatever. Then in 2025, you have a choice between Jacurri Brown, who's ever improving, is a freak athlete, and has a very high ceiling. And then you got Emory Williams, who, as a true freshman, beat Clemson. So that's not something you can argue. He started against Clemson and beat them. Had us in the game against Florida State. That's also something you can't dispute. It's a fact. And as he was being carted off the field in Tallahassee with a compound fracture in his arm, I believe it was compound, is firing up his players. He's trying to rally the troops as his arm is broken and he's in a stretcher as they're rolling him off the field. That's your choice between those two guys in 2025. I'm feeling pretty good. I don't know about you guys. I'm glad we got Cam Ward. JB will learn a lot from Cam as far as mental aspect of being a great quarterback. I agree with that as well. I think the whole quarterback room, Poffenbarger as well, that's another guy that's going to be competing next year. And I wouldn't rule him out of that competition either. Poffenbarger coming in and having a full year to develop before he really will have to compete for that starting job, I think that's a perfect situation. And then you got Judd Anderson, true freshman, coming in. You got Luke Nickel coming in after him, hopefully. It's stacked up pretty well. But that's another thing that when De'Aaron King was here, I think guys behind him benefited from, watching a professional at work, watching a guy like that, have that kind of work ethic, because it helped when KJ Osborne was here. Mike Harley, the very next season, realized, you know what, I'm not putting in enough work. And he called that room out and he started putting in the work. And look at the year that Mike Harley had in 2020. So that could have a ripple effect as well. JB is likely a 2-year starter after Cam leaves for the NFL. We're very stacked for many years to come. 100% agree. Let's keep him here. That's the key. You got to win, and you got to keep him here. Let's see. So besides all that, the biggest story was the schedule, okay? Now, I'm not going to do a super deep dive in the schedule because, especially now in January, it's way too early. But when you go game by game and predicting the schedule, what's going to happen, usually it doesn't play out as you think because guys get hurt. Certain teams are not as good as you thought. Certain teams are better than you thought. So I'm not going to do a super deep dive into it. I am going to touch on a few things, though. Like that, for example, Virginia Tech being on a Friday night. That That's interesting. That's interesting. I do like the fact that we don't have any Thursday night games. Love that. We only have one weeknight game. It's this one, and it's on a Friday night. Friday night games will always draw better than a Thursday night game, especially in Miami. People work. And if they work probably in downtown where it's a murderous drive. If you've ever done that drive, I've done it from downtown Miami or wherever you work in the city, driving up to Hard Rock Stadium for the game on a weeknight. It's terrible. And the traffic's just gotten worse and worse in these last like 4 or 5 years. But you got Vatek on a Friday night. It's the ACC opener. We tend not to fare well, or Mario tends to not fare well in ACC home games. Actually, we tend to not fare well in ACC games in general since we joined the ACC. That's besides the point. But especially the ones we should win. This is going to be a key game for us because if we beat Florida, which is the first game, obviously, then we got FAMU, then we got Ball State, and then I forgot who we have after that. Maybe somebody can refresh my memory. And then the fifth game is Vatek, right? Yeah, I think that's the fifth game. If you go into that game 4-0, I guarantee you, the crowd for that game is going to be somewhere between 50 and 55,000. And it's going to be a nice atmosphere. I can pretty much guarantee that. Now, let's say you drop one. Let's say you drop the game against Florida. You beat Ball State, FAMU, all those games, and you go in 3-1. USF, thank you. Thank you, Chris Ortega. Appreciate the help there. You play USF before Vatek. Let's say you drop one of the games. You go into the Vatek game 3-1. Now you're looking at like maybe a 30,000 person attendance for that game. Yes, one loss could make that much of a difference. You go into that game undefeated, 50, 55,000 easy. You go into that game with one loss, 30,000. Two losses, which I don't think is going to happen, but two losses, you'll be lucky if you get 20,000 for that game. So winning is very, 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 very important. Mario needs to make a statement. August 31st in the swamp. 52-10 type stomping. Look, I think that game is going to be a dogfight. There's no reason we shouldn't. I mean, let's see how the Gators roster looks 6 months from now, 7 months from now, because it could look totally different. But if it looks anything near what it is now, there's no reason we shouldn't have a relatively dominant victory against Florida. And I don't care if it's in their house. It shouldn't matter. But it's probably going to be a dogfight. Those in-state rivals always are, unless we are that team that I'm thinking we're going to be by like 2025, that we could just go in and stomp whoever we want. The way Michigan went in and stomped Michigan State like 48-0 or whatever it was. We're not that team yet. I am expecting a victory, though. Then you got USF, FAMU, Ball State. Yeah. Beat UF. You can take care of business of the other three. You should go into that Vatek Friday night game 4-0 and have a nice size crowd. Great atmosphere. Hopefully the weather cooperates, because I think for every single home game, every single home game, it rained this year at Hard Rock. That was really annoying. Either it rained right before kickoff or it rained during the game. Even a game like the Louisville game in November, even that game it rained, which is weird. It doesn't rain really in Miami in November, but I digress. So then you go into the ACC schedule and you have an important 3-game stretch where you play Louisville on the road, you play FSU at home, and then you play Duke at home. You're probably thinking, why is the Duke game important? Well, for those that don't know, Manny Diaz is Duke's coach now. And we win the Manny Bowl. Yeah. You cannot lose that game. There's just no way in hell. I don't care if it's a monsoon of rain that night. I do not care. Do whatever you got to do to win that game. I know you're probably thinking, oh, that'll be an easy win. Don't be so sure. They got Malik Murphy at quarterback, And Malik Murphy is one of those guys where he could come out and throw 5 interceptions, or he can come out and throw 5 touchdowns and run for 2. He's that kind of dude. He's very talented. And beating him is going to be, it's not going to be easy. Not going to be easy at all. But hopefully we go into that game healthy. We're not bitten by the injury bug again. And we go in there and take care of business. That should be a take care of business kind of game. Where we have really struggled is ACC opponents that we should be beating. The FSUs and the Louisville, I mean, we tend to, crank it up a notch for the bigger games. You know what I'm saying? But the Georgia Techs, the Virginia Techs, the Dukes, for whatever reason, we slip down to our competition and we play at their level. When we stop doing that, that's when I'll know, okay, this program now is really turning a corner. I've yet to see that. We can stomp the Temples of the world. That's why Ball State, I'm not too concerned about that. Cal is now an ACC opponent, but I still kind of see that as a non-conference game. So I'm talking about the teams in the ACC that have given us problems over the years. Start stomping those teams like we should. And, people will really start believing, and you'll make a believer out of me. I think you'll start to see at least signs of that. Maybe a couple of games will have dominant victories, and a couple of games will have, closer dogfights. I'm not predicting 10, 11 wins. I'm hovering around that 8, 9 win mark, looking at the schedule. Syracuse to finish off the season on the road, that's not going to be easy, even though they have a new coach. But I will say this. The schedule does not scare me. Nobody on the schedule scares me. There's no Clemson this year, although Clemson is not Clemson anymore. But there's no juggernaut. There's no Clemson this year. We don't have to play Alabama. When we scheduled Florida, they were a much better team, not what they are now. But still, I'm taking that game seriously. There's no team on the schedule that scares me that you're just chalking it up as a loss like we have the last few years. However, there are games that are not easy that we should not be taking lightly. There's a lot of games that if you take them lightly, they will beat you. There's quite a bit of those. So it'll be very interesting to see. Yes, Mob Jones, Syracuse is a sneaky game. There's a few sneaky games. Georgia Tech. I think Georgia Tech's going to be a lot better than people think. Georgia Tech and Virginia Tech both are heading into their third seasons with their coach. Vatek showed great strides last year. Just like us, it didn't quite show in their schedule, but they showed a lot of improvement. Georgia Tech, same exact thing. Didn't quite show in the schedule, but Georgia Tech showed a lot of improvement. We did have twice as many yards or 3 times as many yards against them, so we out-physicaled them. Hopefully we could do that again, and now you got the quarterback that's not going to give it away 5 or 6 times. So, hopefully you go in there and get a nice 2-3 touchdown victory against Georgia Tech. Or it's a close one. Who knows? Weird stuff happens in that rivalry. I don't know why. But we're going up there. It's probably going to be a night game. It's a gut feeling. But those games are not going to be easy. Don't think that they're going to be easy. We're going to slip up a couple of times. Don't be shocked by that. We're going to slip up here and there. But as long as I keep seeing progress, that's all I care about. Honestly, can't underestimate nobody. We got to respect every team. Come hungry for the win every game. That's a great attitude to have. Mario got to take meals when the game is over. Yeah, I don't think you'll see Mario making that mistake again. He got way too much hate for it. Loved AO's idea last night of everybody with a turnover chain. Let me read that again. Sorry. Loved AO's idea last night of everyone with any turnover chain merch to show up to the Duke game and start throwing it at Manny. That's funny. Can't take the L to Manny. Going to dial up pressure all game. We need to run. Yeah, the good thing about a Manny Diaz defense is we kind of know how it works, and it's not, once you find the weakness in his defense, you could keep attacking it over and over, and he's not going to adjust to it. That is the good thing about his defense. So is 9-10 wins your expectation? I'm not expecting 10. sorry to say. I'm hovering around 8 or 9, to be honest with you. Until this program proves me otherwise, I'm hovering around 8 or 9. I'm my expectations are higher than they were last year, but I'm tempering them at the same time, if that makes any sense. All right, guys. I got to log off, but just wanted to hop on and talk a little Canes with you guys. I'll be back on my usual time Tuesday. Unless there's some big news that drops, I don't know if anything will. It might be a quiet weekend, but recruiting wise, maybe something will pop and I'll hop on. But otherwise, I'll see you guys Tuesday. As always, go Canes. Enjoy your weekend. Take care.